Kendal, another person from the bundle and a big part of the bundle because he has helped put this together with our Melissa, and he's got a huge, huge contributions in this bundle. One of them being the in Masterclass with Dr. Doug Graham. How amazing is that? Plus his model diet. So today we're going to go into the living the 80-10 way on a model that I might have just messed that up there, but excuse me for being a little, we're different time zones here. So yeah, and I want to say that Chris and I have been friends for quite a few years here. We're both Canadian, and where did we meet? We got the Canada Fruit Fest.
I thought it was
What was it,
before that at Woodstock,
2018?
but I'll admit I've been to so many festivals and retreats lately that sometimes those things slip my silly little brain.
The first fruit festival I went to was the Canada Fruit Fest that Ted put together. Did you make it to the first one?
I didn't make it to the first one because I got in that motorcycle accident 2 weeks before it. But I did make it to the year after that, and then of course on my retreat. But I was sure we had another festival between there too.
So it would have been the Woodstock Fruit Festival then, because it was the Woodstock Fruit Festival. Got to meet you, did all your yoga first thing in the morning, and then I got the ticket for your Costa Rica retreat, which was amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, never had better mangoes in my life, seriously. And that farm of life is so beautiful too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I miss it.
Yep.
It's a beautiful, beautiful place and space that I've spent so much of my life, especially between like 2011 and 2023 was the last time I went, or 2024. Yeah. Which year was it? Was it 2024? Or
it was 2020, the year before everything shut down. I could have got stuck there.
Yes. Yeah, me too. Yeah, because I ended up chefing Dr. Sam's retreat right after that, right in the middle of when it actually happened. So yeah, it's crazy how fast time flies. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago though that we were out there enjoying.
Yeah, and I miss it every day. I keep thinking of the tropical fruit, and especially this winter time when I was craving nothing but just delicious, hydrating fruits. Like we don't even have good watermelons here in the wintertime, and this watermelon is the first good one of the season that I'm having as my breakfast here. And you've got your delicious orange juice, so I'm gonna have oranges to go with mine after.
So darn good. Yeah, this is so juicy. Just went produce shopping, and yeah, my first liter of OJ from a whole case, 15K of oranges. I'm pretty stocked and stoked.
It's amazing. So the first question I'm gonna ask, because most people are gonna say, well, isn't that too much sugar, Chris?
It is a question that comes up all the time for sure. And I think it's important to note right from the beginning that essentially every cell in the body's primary source of fuel is sugar, is simple sugars, and we're designed having a sweet tooth. Everyone talks about having a sweet tooth, and when you're eating a lower fat diet, that only gets heightened. The higher the fat you eat, the less you're drawn to sugar. But just because insulin function is impeded. But fruit is the most nourishing food on the planet when we're looking at our whole needs. Like when we're looking not only at vitamins and minerals, but we're also looking at getting enough calories without eating a ridiculously absurd amount. Vegetables, number 2, because they're so low in calories, you could never get your calorie fill from them unless you really alter them a lot. But now fruit is like as close to the perfect food for humans as humanly possible, and it just so happens that it's delicious and you can eat it until you're full without doing anything to it. And you can be really happy, your mouth is all cracking up and, you're feeling good. It digests great. You're hydrated. You got all those nutrients. So yeah, not a concern with the sugar there.
For sure. And I also about what you also do on the side. So you nutrition education?
Yeah. I've been studying
Tell them about
since 1999 is when I really started reading up on nutrition and was self-taught for many years, learning more and more and more. And then I wanted to become a vegan chef, but in 2003, there was no vegan chef schools that were anywhere that I could find. I did see one in France, but it also required some meat stuff as well, and I wasn't willing to do that. So instead, I went into a holistic nutrition course, and so that was in Vancouver. I started in 2003, and it was a 1-year full-time course. I also worked at a Whole Foods kind of market sister called Capers as a cashier. So I was working as a cashier, going to school, and then in the middle of that is when I met Dr. Doug Graham and went full raw. And yeah, forever changed since then.
That's so awesome. So you actually did some nutrition in Vancouver, which is close to where I'm from. I'm actually from the island.
Yeah,
So that's
beautiful.
I did to BC a time ago. We're
I mean, I
about I think we're 11 years apart, but probably couldn't
yeah,
guess it with how
I'm
hydrated he
46.
is.
I'm 46, so I was born in 1980, and I graduated early from high school. I didn't take any electives at all, or sorry, I didn't take any extra classes, and I didn't take any spares. So what that allowed me to do is finish my school, and actually I skipped 1 year of science because I did good enough the year before that they just said, "Oh, you can skip grade 11, go right to 12," and it allowed me to finish half a year early. So in 1997, when I was still 17, I moved to Vancouver, and I had been going there back and forth between 97 to 2005 or four, five or somewhere around there. I'd have to think a little bit more deeply on that, but right around that time, and I kind of bounced around between Vancouver, Edmonton, St. Albert, and Saskatchewan and Los Angeles for a bunch of years.
So awesome. You did that right after you graduated. Still would have probably been in Nanaimo, which is a 2-hour ferry ride from Vancouver, but I hadn't traveled off the island to graduated. And I did take extra. I was like, give me all the free education, which helped because the last semester I got a Japanese, and I was able to partner up with another classmate, and we got to go to Japan on scholarship. So that was my first trip ever to the country.
Wow. And
And then
Japan, that's a big one for your first trip ever. That's amazing. I've never been there yet, and it's one of
yeah,
my top places I wanna go.
it's so beautiful. And
Mm.
Kiko lives there,
Yes.
and yeah,
Sachi
she's
too, who's
it's
normally a part
awesome.
of the bundle as well, but, I'm sure she'll be back. Hey, Sachi, if you're
Yeah.
here, we love you.
Yeah, super awesome. And then the trip out of Canada before coming to the US was Costa Rica. So there's been a few since then, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, all sweet
Yeah,
places,
and
that's amazing.
I had buckwheat in
Oh, yeah,
Japan because I saw it growing, and
yeah,
now that we're using it in these recipes, and you've got a pizza book as well, it's super awesome. And
yeah.
yeah, so tell me about this model diet. Now let's dive in. I look through it, and holy, you have so much information in there. It's a little bit hard for me, just got to say for myself personally, to read on the phone,
Yeah,
but eventually I'll get into it. But I did see that you have some recipes on there as
yeah,
well, which are super simple and
yeah.
fun and amazing to think of. Like, people think of models as these, these tall, skinny people that don't eat a lot and they exercise
Mm.
a ton. So tell us about the model diet and how it pertains to the 80-10-10 diet and lifestyle.
I love it, I love it. Well, right off the bat, it is kinda sad, that a lot of people in the modeling industry really abuse themselves and, come from a place of really a lack of abundance, starving themselves and stimulating themselves, and there's drug abuse. And I'm not going to say everyone, of course, but I do know people in the industry who say that is very prevalent. Lots of smoking and lots of, glorifying under eating and, junk food and stuff like that. And for full clarity, just so everyone knows, this diet isn't really like this book isn't like specifically for models. The title, the model diet, really comes to three different branches. Like model being nature's model through comparative anatomy and
Mhm.
physiology, the model being the ideal, and then the model as in it allows you to really become incredibly healthful and vibrant and vital, which is in turn very attractive and lends you to get to your highest heights of vitality and overall health and well-being. And with that too, I mean, I do hope that people who are within that industry and people who just want to look and feel their best really sincerely take it on, because it's a way to achieve all of those goals while at the same time being optimally nourished and feeling your absolute best, right? So that's kind of like the
Absolutely.
trifecta of the title. But of course, the cover and the main name, it's a little bit of what is that called? a thirst magnet or whatever the heck it is. I don't know, something
Yeah,
like that,
thirst
right?
trap, something
Yeah,
like that.
things
So
like
it's
that.
a
I'm not really well versed in it, but yeah, it's just a little bit of fun. But how it started, really, like, I started the Raw Advantage in 2009. I went raw in 2004, and it took me a while to get to a point where I felt ready to start, and in 2013, I bought a whole bunch of different URLs. I had started with the dash raw dash advantage. I wanted the raw advantage, but somebody scooped it right from under me as soon as I had searched it. And so I updated to just the rawdvantage.com, and I bought a bunch of other URLs. And one of them was actually the model diet. I bought that URL in 2013, and with the intention of creating a book called The Model Diet. But in the beginning, it was just a pretty small project. I was really just going to do a couple chapters and then a recipe book with it. And over the years, other projects really took my time and attention, and I started developing more recipes that weren't really in that kind of scope of what I was thinking about. And it slowly grew and grew and grew as a project to be longer and bigger and more of a complete workings of the lifestyle with a real breakdown of where the science, where the nature, where my personal experience comes in, where intuition comes in, and the whole big picture, right? So it just blossomed and bloomed from there. And the last bunch of years doing the bundle. Now this is our fifth year doing the bundle, but it's our seventh bundle because we did maybe it's 7 or 8 because we did 2 a year for the first year and a half. And for all of those, I mostly focused on recipe books up until last year when I did raw truths, kind of going into big misconceptions that can really harm people and hold them back. But this year, I was just like, what am I going to do? And I had one other project I wanted to do, but the tech kind of side of it was falling short. I wasn't able to put it together. And I was like, you know what? This is it. This is the time for the model diet. And, this is my life's work, my big book, and I didn't think it was going to be as big as it was. I had the structure all planned out, but once I actually started getting in and reworking it and figuring out where there are any kind of gaps and how to really put like really everything I've learned in the last really since 1999, so like 26 years, 27 years, putting it all together into the entire kind of manifesto that if I passed away tomorrow, that would be like my legacy, and that's what I really put this together for. Not that I'm planning on
there you go
disappearing,
too. Hopefully not.
No,
Let's
no, I
not get
don't.
into more car crashes,
No, yeah,
okay?
exactly.
But 2 decades of information and knowledge, and over a decade and a half of strict work on it. That's amazing. And the model diet being modeling health and wellness
Mhm,
and being whole in your body with whole foods is,
mhm.
is that's amazing. It's great to hear the thought behind the title of the book as well. So that is just reminds me of my book, which we'll talk about on our other live, which will be great. But yeah, it's been a few years and then maybe a bit more than that. But yeah, I love that. Tell me now about the master class. I've
Mhm.
heard it's worth over what is $147. That's gonna
Yeah,
be, guys, after the event, just this master class with doctor. He's been a doctor for many
yeah,
decades,
over
and he's been
50.
raw for years.
Yeah, just
So
nearing
if
50
it
years. And, Dr. Graham, he's like the guy who got me into this, my mentor, friend, colleague. We have written a recipe book, co-created a recipe book back in the past called American Classics on his site, and spoken from the same stages. And I've spent time at his house with his family a whole bunch of different times. And yeah, I just feel really honored. That has been in concept for a long time too. I've wanted to build something with Dr. Graham, and this year with the bundle, he wasn't in the last, I think, two. And I approached him, and just said, "Hey, Doug, I'd love to do a project with you." I didn't want to put a lot on him to create something new because he's really busy. Like he goes to 9, 10 plus events a year, and has a lot of stuff going on. I mean, Dr. Graham is often considered, the father of the low fat, fruit based raw food diet. His book, The 80-10-10 Diet, is a classic. And again, even considered the Bible of the raw food movement. He has probably
Hmm.
put out more information and created more leaders in the raw food community than anyone alive. Yeah, and when I asked him if he wanted to do something, and he said yes, and I said, hey, what do you think about maybe creating a mini course called the 80-10-10 Masterclass? He's like, all right, let's do it. That sounds fun. And it was funny, Ali, because we started, I created the outline, had 5 modules and a whole bunch of videos all set, and, the questions all together, and was ready. And we were going to start filming in January, but then both of our schedules got really jam packed, and we didn't even actually get into filming the videos for the course until March. Yeah. So in March, we started filming. And the first call we had, it was like, okay, we got about 3 hours to do this call. And I figured we'd cover, quite a bit. I thought we'd maybe just do 2 or 3, because the intention was a mini course, just like 2 to maybe 4 or 5 hours max, like, a mini course, right? And yeah, we did that first call, and it ended up being a lot longer than we thought, and we talked about it, and we're like, "You know what? Let's just, like, do this right. Like, it's not a mini course. Let's make this a full-on in-depth course that, like, goes deeper than anything he's ever done before, hits different angles than anything he's ever done before." And whereas 80-10-10 is the instructions, this is the application that brings it home? And so we ended up doing, like, 7 or 8 calls of between 2 to 4 hours each, and ended up being like 25 hours worth of footage that came down to 17 and a half hours split between 5 modules that each has action steps and handouts and like some gamification. So when you're going through it, you get like rewards and fun sounds and animations popping up, so it's nice and fun while you're doing it. It encourages you to do more, and I couldn't be more proud of it. And I'm just, again, so honored and blessed that Dr. Graham trusted me, because 80-10-10 diet, again, yeah, it's amazing, so to be able to put it together with him, it's just such a joy. And having the bundle, we talked about that too. That's funny, because when it started getting as big as it is, I was like, Doug, I just got to be honest. Like, originally we thought this is gonna be a little smaller. This is getting really big, and like the cost is gonna be high. Like, do we want to include it in the bundle? Like, we can maybe pull it, and just launch it separately. And we talked about it, and we both agreed, you know what, this is it. I mean, he had the last word 100%. And he's like, let's put it in there, like, it's going to help so many people. It's going to make the pie bigger, and just allow a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't access it to attain mastery with a raw food diet. And so, yeah, we included it in the bundle, and it's a steal of a deal. If I could have
Hmm.
seen this, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have definitely been jumping 110%.
Totally. What a dream come true. That's amazing. I've heard of anybody else that's been raw as long as him, and a doctor at that. So that just gives me so much hope. And somebody like me who has a hard time reading on the phone, I don't have a Kindle or nothing like that. I have the 80-10-10 book, and that does go around, but the video courses and having those activities and that kind of stuff. So I'm so honored and blessed to be a part of this bundle and to get access to that. So people, if you just want the course, like, it's worth it just to get your bundle, to get the entire bundle just for the course. And there are 30 other contributions, which this is the biggest one, most amount of time, and in such a short amount of time for you to edit all that and get it in there. And it's about 5 times the that you originally wanted it. Like, it's such a
Mhm.
blessing. And we thank you guys so
Oh,
much for it.
so stoked you're a part, and it's really an honor. And full transparency, I'm still editing it, but the reason there being is that it drips out. So like the first module is 1 week, and then the next week the second module opens, and then the third week the first half of the third module opens, because there's more videos in the third module. So in all, it ends up being 7 weeks. And when you purchase the masterclass and you sign up to when you purchase the bundle in either of our links, by the way, and then you sign up for the masterclass, the countdown timer starts right from there. So if you want to do it in the dripped out fashion that I would personally recommend, because then that just gives you time to focus on it, and it is sequential. There is a reason we put it in that order, and that allows you time to do each video and each action step and let them sit and take time before you get to the next ones. But if you really like, you could just start it and then just leave it alone for 6 weeks, and then just do whatever you want. You can totally do that. But I do recommend following that drip fashion and signing up when you're ready with it.
That was going to be my next. Like, how does it work? So is it like the Smoothie where you have to start here, and then once that is finished, then the next chapter opens up, and then you can go through all of that, and you can take it at your time. So like you have access to once you've gotten the bundle and signed in and done all of that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a really important thing that once you've purchased the bundle, there is a lot of information like right when you do it. So it does tell you this, but every single project or product in the bundle, you have access for life as long as you download it within 1 year. After a year, they're not accessible anymore. But as soon as you download them, they're yours. You get them. Same with this course. You get a PDF that has a link to the course. And once you click that link and create your profile, that drip starts. And it is set on a timer, so it's not like if you do module 1, module 2 won't open until that week is up. And that was intentional as well, just again to give a little bit of space. Some of the action steps aren't just like an exam that you write, and it's like there's some application there to bring it home, because you learn something until you actually apply it and sit with it a bit. It's not really integrated. So it's really designed to try and bring these lessons home and to put them in practice so that they become more second nature, and then you have access for life.
Okay, so not just rushing through it. You can't do the entire course and have 1 week per,
Yeah.
if as your shortest amount of time. I
Well,
like that, the practical tip
if
too.
you like, though, like I said, if you really just want to try and breeze through it, you could just create your profile, and the drip will start, and then just wait like 5 weeks or 6 weeks, and then everything will be open. Like after 6 weeks, everything is open. So you could just do that if you really
Okay.
prefer. But again, I would recommend going through the drip fashion. But yeah, it's totally up to the individual what they want to do. And I know some people actually, they did sign up without knowing that there's a drip, and I could have been even more clear on that. And they may not get to watch it right now, so they'll start whenever, and as much will be open as is open by the time they actually get to it, right? But if you listen to this, then you know a little bit more, and you can choose whether you want it to totally drip by itself and read it later, or watch it later, or if you want to dive in with that intention. Okay, I'm starting now, and it's 7 weeks of content to go through over 7 weeks, with a little more relaxed pace. Because
I
it is, I
love
mean,
that. I'm
17
so
and a half hours
looking
of
forward to it.
content is a lot, right? So going through 17 and a half hours, and there's 29 videos total, and 26 in the modules that have handouts and action steps and all that good stuff. And something else kind of fun is the 80-10-10 diet is included in there as an ebook as well. So you actually get that book in there at the same time.
The only non-new book that's actually included in this.
Yeah.
Everything else is new, and is the first time ever being released, and it's the first time I'm ever going to be in a bundled together list. Plus, there is one bonus book that won't be released after the bundle, and that is collaboration of a
True.
multitude of people within this bundle, and that is such an amazing one too. Having some people, they put in their stories in the bundle and weren't able recipes in, because we had it a little bit different this year, where where if it's a storybook but you want to put recipes, you had to go up to a certain amount of recipes. So those people that didn't get any recipes in were able to get some into the collaboration book. So that is pretty awesome to be able to have that. I was going to throw one in there, but I got overwhelmed with everything I'm doing over here, and I actually created while transitioning into my second trimester right now. So
Congratulations.
yeah.
Double congratulations. That's fun. That's fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, I intended to have
Thank you.
2 recipes in the group book, but I actually managed to get one between the model diet and the masterclass. I got a little bit busy there. Oh, I see here on Instagram, someone's asking, what's Ali's Instagram page?
It's Ali Ombaba. So ALIEOMBA.
Awesome.
So we're trying this new Restream account here, and I've got my YouTube and Facebook, but then afterwards, because I'm on won't be able to stream it to my Instagram, but afterwards we're gonna connect them, and then it'll go on to my Instagram afterwards.
Oh,
So thank you for that.
question there. Oh,
That's about the time it takes. 24 episode TV show with it's each. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, a lot there was a lot of work and time going into it, but, the feedback has been amazing because, under each video, there's a chat box too, so people can ask questions or clarification, and actually thus far, it's mostly just been like, "Wow, this is amazing," like, one person even was saying that, like, "I wish I knew this a decade ago, like, I know exactly what I've been doing wrong now," and, like, so it's providing a lot of clarity, and people are really enjoying it, which is, of course, awesome to see.
That is that is so awesome. That really reminds me of the school community. So is this on the school website, or is it on like a completely just online on its own private thing?
I use a
Okay.
platform called Experientify, which,
Mm.
it's meant for gamification so that, again, there's, like you can earn points, and there are different kind of cues kind of playing off of video game kind of technology that keeps you engaged, so it's designed to drive engagement and make it more fun, and
Love that.
it's really fun too because right now, this is kind of a little bit of a secret, and I don't know exactly what it's gonna look like, but every single video, like, when you watch it and people could cheat, this is really relying upon people's goodwill and honesty, which I think, within this community and people that are living this lifestyle are pretty darn honest people. But when you watch a video, you can click a button that says like watch the video and you get 2 points. It's like, woohoo, like you got your points, right? And then when you actually do the action step, then you can get 2 XP or 3 XP points. And that's like, woo, 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 like cha-ching, and right now the platform is building out a possibility so that like, again, every video you watch and every action step you take, you're getting points and all this stuff is kind of perking up and you get a running number so you can tell how many XP and XXP points you get. And up until now, because I've been using Experientify since 2019 when I did my raw vegan lifestyle success system course, which is still available as well. But up until then, it was really just the points were just, for fun and running. And, of course, outside of the course, you could implement them somehow. Like I told people you could use them for stuff, just let me know. But now within the course, they're building it and it's not available yet, but it will be available soon so that those points that you accrue can actually be used as money in like a special bonus section in the course. So like, for example, I could put my other books in there and be like, oh, if you have 60 points, you can, get the pizza book or something. And don't quote me on that. I haven't figured out exactly what's going to be in the bonus section or if Doug would want the pizza book in the bonus section, but we'll figure something out to be able to utilize those points, which again, just encourages people to, go through everything, do those action steps, and then get rewards for doing so.
That's I mean, your pizza book is worth it. I have it in the printed,
Mhm,
and it's got the little spiral bound, and
mhm.
it's small, which is perfect for travel. And I actually brought it down here. I was like, my raw books are not leaving my site. I sent them down here ahead of time. I'm like, I'm gonna use these when I'm visiting and all the stuff, and ended up staying. So yeah, I was able to stay high raw and mostly raw and sometimes. And yeah, your
That's
pizzas
awesome.
are amazing. And I love the fact that you can actually put them in the freezer and then reheat dehydrate them. Ooh, dyslexia. Dehydrate them to warm them up and then add the toppings, and it's so fun and awesome. And yeah, so you've got those two contributions, and then so many other books, sauces and stews and stations from your retreats. Like got a wealth of knowledge on you. And how long has it been? How long have you been raw and vegan for?
Yeah.
You a little bit and you were kind of vegan off and on until you went fully raw.
Yeah, yeah. I also just noticed Wendy said, "That pizza book is worth it." Thanks, Wendy. Thank you. And hey, Camilla. Um, yeah, I went raw in 2004, and so it's been, just over 22 years now because it was the spring of 2004. And, vegan, I actually went vegan 6 months before that. I mean, I had a 4.5 year transition from standard American, like, really gross standard American because I was that dude who I was with friends, skateboarders, and we'd be drinking and smoking. And if we went out to a restaurant when there's stuff left over, they'd pour it all into a cup and be like, "For $5, will you have it?" And like, you could have poured a
Mm.
bottle of ketchup in there, and I'd do anything for any money because I lived very, very trife or broke for a long period of time. So I was like the go-to guy to do anything for money. And I used to
Ooh.
like I remember when I was in 1999 living in St. Albert. working at a skate shop with my friend Glenn, who owned the shop. I remember that we had a deal with Family Pizza, and almost every day I'd like smoke a pack of cigarettes, I'd order an extra large bacon double cheeseburger pizza, and I'd eat most of it at lunch, and then I'd eat the rest of it for dinner with a 40 ounce of beer, and a couple bong rips, and that was like my life, and yeah,
Your poor gut.
well, poor gut and poor me, because that's that. But the thing is that that's what led me to this, because you know, again, I moved out at 17, and my diet and lifestyle went downhill very fast. Because my mom, she's an amazing chef and provided a lot of fresh foods and really quality stuff, and I was always pretty healthy, reasonably so. Anyway, like I tried to get everything I could outside of what she provided. But when I moved out, it went downhill because I was living off like 3 grand a year. Like I was living really, really cheap and getting the crappiest food, and also trying to drink and smoke the whole time. Like I was really
Mhm.
pushing it, and I fell apart. Like I was depressed. I didn't really want to live anymore. I had chronic candida. My athleticism and healing was going down, and I knew I needed something. And I eventually found yoga, which pointed me in the direction of food having an impact on your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being. And that just was like, and that's what really got me into learning about health and nutrition and starting to apply things over 4.5 years before I went vegan, and then met Doug and went raw vegan.
That's amazing. Yeah, and you've done the rain what is the chakra rainbow cleanse,
Yeah, the
something
Rainbow
like that.
Island
I've done
cleanse.
that a few cleanse. Yeah, I've done
Yeah,
that a couple times, which is fun. So you've got exercises on food and some education on that as well. And you reminded me there's a book called The Diet, or the Yogi Diet, or something like that. And it's
yeah,
it's to no harm and that kind of stuff. And that's so you had a good foundation at home where
yeah.
you had fruits and vegetables and some good
Mhm.
home cooked meals. I had that too. It's a lot of ate a lot of vegetables. We didn't have access to really good fruit, and bananas were the staple. They've always been the staple, but once they went brown, my mom was like, all right, I gotta do something with these. I can't throw them out. But we would have banana bread.
Oh,
That's one of the ones. And I like that's that the living enzymes bread
yeah,
book. There's a little
Christina's book.
banana bread in there. Yeah, hers is
Yeah,
popping off with that um bread
yeah,
recipe. Listen, they're making us so many sandwiches. Nate says it's sandwiches, so you're gonna
yeah,
be seeing lots of that this year.
yeah, absolutely. That looks phenomenal. I haven't gotten a chance to make it yet, but it looks really darn good for sure.
Have there been any recipes that you've been able to try out of the bundle yet?
It's pretty wild. I have not, and it is funny. Like I've been doing this for so long, and this could sound really bad, but it's just my truth. I don't really like making recipes from books. Like I almost never do. I just like to make whatever I have, like in the moment, and of course I do on an odd occasion. But it is pretty wild that I might, like, from someone else's book, I might make, like, a couple a year. Like, I almost never do, and I don't look at my own books either. I buy food, and then when I have it, I make it, and I have, like, a handful of recipes that I absolutely love, and they just become my go-tos, and I make them when I want to make those as well. But that's just what makes it really easy for me, and, just comes from what I enjoy the most and feel the best doing. And, I think earlier on in my journey, I would have gone gangbusters over so many recipe books, because there wasn't really many out there. Like when I first put out my TRA Retreat Treats book, there was no books that were low fat gourmet. It was just either like super simple low fat hygienic or super high fat gourmet. And so I started doing that, and I spent years developing recipe books. You mentioned I have some books. Like I have like 14 or 15 books now, and I kind of gotten just burnt out on making recipes. I just like I obviously I still make some, but I just make the ones that are second nature to me. And so I haven't. That said, I do intend to make some from there. And as a bundle co-creator, I feel a little bad being honest about that, but it is just my truth. It's where I'm at. And that's the thing about the bundle is we're trying to meet everyone where they're at. And so it doesn't matter if someone is a real foodie and they want to make like tons of different exciting recipes that they've never had before, or they want to emulate their favorite dish, they're going to be able to find that. But also, if they just want to learn how to do this in a way where they're pretty much just eating as if they're in the Garden of Eden, and some simple
Hmm.
recipes, they can do that too, and it can meet anyone where they're at. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because there's so many people and so many styles and so many taste buds or palates, so much
Got
different.
microbiomes
Yeah, all these things, right? There's so much of that within the
yep.
bundle, so everyone can find what resonates the most with them while also opening those doors and exploring the different ways of doing it to find their personal balance. Because you might enjoy one way of doing it in your first few years, and you might kind of want to dance this way and try some other stuff, and you might dance back, and you might do this, for a while, right? Because who knows, maybe next year I'll just be like going crazy and making every recipe I've ever seen. I'm not sure.
It depends on what you have access to, and a few things pop up there that, yeah, amazing that you guys are so welcoming to people that aren't fully raw themselves, but will still take the time to make a book, a recipe book, or just a book in general of their journey and how you add it into it. Like, I've been there up and down. I started with raw, and I do some experimenting to see how my body would react afterward. And I do believe in, like, the Garden of Eden, like, first our diet, and it was simple. Like, you would have just picked the fruit off the trees and the vine, and the vegetables and the herbs. It would have been so simple. We wouldn't have had anything but our mouths and our hands to mix it and put it together. And there are a lot that still believe pardon me, just in, like, the whole food without really mixing it, without, other than their hair, and a knife and a cutting board or something, or a knife and a plate even. and they simplify and do that. And then there's some people that they just want to try and get every single variety of fruits and vegetables, like hunting the planet for all the varieties of fruits.
Fruit hunters.
And yeah, fruit hunters. Yeah, there's a company that I I believe is in Florida that actually is called that, and they do that.
There's
And
a
they share fruit and stuff
documentary
like that.
too, called The Fruit Hunters. I was invited to be on it, but in order to do it, I would have had to fly to LA just for one day, and it wasn't even sure that it would get in the documentary, and I didn't end up going. And I introduced a friend to the producer, and she ended up going with him to the Los Angeles wholesale market, which was what they wanted me to go do and show off. And they didn't even use it in the cut. So who knows, maybe if I went, maybe they would have, but I'm happy I didn't fly just to not get in the cut. But yeah, that was
Yeah,
so much fun.
that
But
would have been
I truly believe, and I mean, it goes into this in the book, all this kind of stuff it goes into, and the model diet book. And I really do believe we are back in the garden right now. Like, we have more variety and more year-round availability basically on every corner of the earth than ever before. And people romanticize the past and think that if we were in the jungles, we just have the best quality produce and all this variety all the time. But when you really look at jungles, fruit trees are like, they're not like just all over the place and always fruiting. Like, the reason people believe our brain, some people like Tony Wright from Left in the Dark or Return to the Brain of Eden, which is an amazing book and is referenced in my book, and there's links and everything. There's the postulate that our brains actually expanded not from cooked food, but from requiring the knowledge to be able to find, remember, and map out larger and larger areas of land to go seasonally to different fruits. And by doing that, we got more calories, which allowed that expansion as well. And there's this complex feedback mechanism that happens when we're eating the sex organs of plants. That's what fruits are, right? It's a really powerful chemical reaction. And so, like, again, people really romanticize this and think like, oh, we just have it so abundant and it'd be so perfect, but you'd be just going all over. And in nature, they're opportunistic. Like, they're eating grubs and bark and things that aren't optimal. In underripe fruit, they have stronger amylase, salivary amylase, to be able to break down underripe fruits and all that kind of stuff. Man, we got it so dang good. We can get, like, ripe fruit year round, more varieties than ever before. And even when it isn't the absolute best, we're doing better than we have at any time on the planet. So it's just such a blessing and a hopeful future that's only going to get better.
Yeah, once upon a time, you had to grow your own food and farm your own animals just to be able to survive. And if you didn't trade or grow your own, you kind of went without. And that's after oh, what is it? I guess colonization or something, when they would settle and start actually grow, more food came available, but it also came at a price of like the land and cutting down for wheat and
Yeah.
uh more and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But in the Bible it says to be multiply, and some
Mhm.
religions believe that's just for humans,
Mhm.
but I feel it deep in my heart. It's to be fruitful with actual fruit and
Mhm.
to multiply like fruit trees and be able to feed. Like we could feed so many more people. Like in the tropic, breadfruit is
Mhm.
so abundant. It's a tree that grows this giant potato with so much
Mhm.
starch, and
Mhm.
it's you can't when it's um fully ripe, but when it's not ripe, you can cook it
For
to
sure.
eat it and have the calories sufficient. But there are some fruit trees that are abundant all around, and some
Yeah.
trees that are more prolific during like the fall and the winter. Like here in Tennessee, we do have a little bit of a winter. We have
Yeah.
a pretty good growing season because of the heat and the sunshine and all of that. But in the wintertime, it's like a lot of nuts
Yeah.
and a lot of
Yeah.
greens. You can grow greens if you have like a greenhouse or cover, those covers over them, and
Mhm.
persimmons
Oh,
around here. The native ones are so tiny, they're a little bit more pungent, I'd say.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but that's not something like in the wintertime. If you are going to stay somewhere cold, like you kind of do need a little bit more fat and more minerals. I found to be close to that, and I find it somewhat go fully raw unless I'm using the hydrator if I'm gonna
Mhm.
cook something and have like a super stew. But you can still have that with the tools that we have. Like we're amazing to be able to have tools
Oh,
like
absolutely.
washer dryers and refrigerators came to help. So
Mhm.
now there's stoves and dehydrators and blender,
Mhm.
um, grinders make powders and all of that. So the blender really helps
Huge.
with making things smoother and also warm. And then the dehydrator keeps it at low temperature. Like you can have it higher if you want. Some people
Mhm.
prefer to use theirs for jerky, but I
Yeah.
like mine for
Mine's jerky
making those
free.
breads and the wrap.
Yeah. Yeah, mine's jerky free. No one's making jerky in mine, that's for sure. And, it's
That's
fun to
awesome.
note too that, both the model diet as well as the 80-10-10 masterclass have dedicated sections about raw food in the winter to make it a lot easier, and I'll be very honest, Ali, for me, I don't find the winter any harder than the summer. I don't find it harder to eat raw in Canada or in the tropics. And there are certain things and mindset shifts and practices and it's just information that can make that a heck of a lot easier, and that's not to make any way better or worse. It's just there's information that can make it a lot easier, and it's in both of those resources in the bundle too.
I'm looking forward to that. That's super awesome. Yeah, for me, I think it does have a little bit of a hardship because of ripeness and
Mhm.
texture. And
Mhm.
I'm a type of person that's like, if I'm eating the exact same for long enough, because some people are just like, just eat it. Like it's so easy. You just have to peel it and eat it. But
Mhm.
the fact that our bananas don't come from this country, they come from a different country and they're picked unripe. When it's during the winter time, it doesn't ripen as properly as in the summertime. So if I don't freeze them when they're ripe in the summer and fall, I don't get good bananas in the wintertime. A pretty good staple. And then I'm stuck with frozen mangoes, even if those are good, because sometimes they don't go good, and then it's just dates. And
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, how do I'm stuck on greens and fat and stuff like that. So what would you say to those people that struggle with maybe textures or it cool, but things change, and like having that, some people eating the exact same thing every day, all some people also, they'll eat it till they get sick of it and then they don't want it for a few months.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, optimally too, we're not eating the exact same things year round all the time. Like there's some variety over the seasons. And yeah, sure, there can be staples. I mean, on almost any diet, people do have staples. Like there's a lot of people who eat rice and beans every day, and there's a lot of people who eat a burger every single day, and but there's room for variety there. And throughout the seasons, there's going to be different sweet fruits that become abundant. And typically for me, bananas are a big staple. I mean, there's a reason I'm called the Banana Commander, and I have my banana mustache, right? And I would bet usually somewhere between a half to 2/3 of the year, bananas are a staple where I have, banana smoothies or banana ice cream for lunch quite commonly. But during the winter months, when it's available, I'm switching over to persimmons, and I'm having persimmons as my sweet fruit meal. When neither of those are available, then I love to have dates, and those are a great date smoothie. That's how I usually make them. And otherwise, from pears to, if I was in the tropics, jackfruit or mangoes, depending on where I am, get different things, stuff like that. But it's interesting you mentioned with the bananas, because I'll be honest, and I'm by no means saying that you don't experience what you're experiencing. But for myself, I've never found the quality to really dip that much that I even notice it. Like, yes, compared to some bananas in the tropics, I've had less amazing bananas, say here, Los Angeles, or Canada, or different places like that. But in general, I don't find it to be enough that it's even an issue. I just try and get the best quality ones I can. Occasionally, I get a case that isn't amazing, and I've had some people say that certain brands don't typically taste quite as good for them in certain places. But then I would say try a different brand. Try a different box. And usually with the bananas too, I just find that if you let them ripen really well and then you smoothie them, maybe add a date or two, or add some carob powder, or switch it up and add some greens or some blueberries and stuff like that, then it becomes really a non-issue, at least again in my personal experience. And that's what I've generally found. But another really big thing about it as well is, you know, we do tend to hyper focus. And again, this isn't a reflection of what you said. This is just in general. We do tend to hyper focus on food and make food the center. And I actually see it the other way around, that in those times when the food isn't quite as amazing, because yeah, there is a bit of a lull in the winter in terms of variety and quality. But to me, that's an opportunity to instead shift focus to the other lifestyle aspects and just put much more focus there, because food is amazing. Raw, fresh fruits and vegetables, they are delicious, but they're really there for us for our nourishment so that we can do everything else in life. And it's what we focus on that has the most pronounced effect. So if we focus on the food as not being as good as we'd want it, it can really bring us down, which then lends to an emotional reaction, which makes the whole lifestyle and life in general harder overall. So like I like to switch that and be like, hey, yeah, like it's maybe not quite as great. It's not my first call, but I'm just going to instead now focus on some, strength training, or some, connection with my friends, or X, Y, and Z, and of course in the books and the course, we go even deeper into that and different angles of it. But that's the two big things that I can say from kind of what you mentioned, and just in general from coaching for 16 years, what I've seen help the most people.
That's a really good reminder, is the mindset. Like, that reminds me of a book. It's, what is it called? Eat to Live. So it's basically meant to satiate us and give us energy, not to just be obsessed. Every meal has to taste amazing. Like, people in the wintertime, when they would struggle and had farms and that kind of stuff, they ate that, and it wasn't a huge variety, and back then in certain places, especially deep winter, it wasn't all plants either. Like, people can struggle with getting enough plants in the wintertime, but with technology and greenhouses and that kind of stuff, we are a little bit more spoiled to have that kind of stuff. But the mindset is a good thing, because when you go sit down to eat, if you're in a stressed or anxious energy, that is going to put a stressor on your digestive system too, right?
Huge. I mean, honestly, beyond, of course, eating more closely to our species specific path, I think the biggest difference we can make with our diet is to come to a calm, balanced state before choosing to eat. And I put that in the book and really go into that as well with video references, so you can check out full blog posts. But I'm really a big, strong proponent of what is called true hunger, and the idea that when we're feeling anxious, irritable, upset stomach, headachy, urgently craving a certain food, hangry, as people say, that really isn't hunger whatsoever. That's more our body processing waste products, and it's going through our system, creating symptoms that attract us to similar things that those residues are coming from, and they're very short-lived. And when people choose to knee-jerk emotionally eat out of those, 99% of the time they're not great choices. They're usually, again, the same choices that our body is clearing. And if we can instead see that as, hey, this isn't hunger, I'm just like looking to sidestep this emotion, I'm trying to numb myself out, I'm trying to not agree and quench down what is happening within me right now. What it does is that stuff is trying to be processed, and we stuff it back down to be dealt with later, and it just gets stinkier and louder and worse. When instead, if we see that and go, I'm just going to take a breath, I'm going to go take a walk, I'm going to have some water, I'm going to have a conversation, I'm going to do a dance, I'm going to do something to help move this through my system, all of a sudden we come to the other side in a calm, clear, balanced state where we want to make a choice that is more nourishing, more loving, and more compassionate to ourselves. And through doing that again and again, this becomes a new habit. And then we create a better relationship with ourselves, a better relationship with food, and a better relationship with our emotional bodies. And that, again, I think just applying that, even if you don't do an all raw food diet, if you just eat a pretty healthful diet, but you do this, you're probably going to see even better results than someone on a perfect raw diet, but is eating out of emotional reasons, all tight and impacting their digestion hugely.
Yeah, definitely feel that during this. The first trimester was a struggle for me. I had a hard time getting enough food in at
Yeah.
all and energy, and I was just on the couch, and I don't normally like green, but somehow those were the only juicy fruit that seemed to be good. And then of course I had those weird cravings,
Yeah.
and my body being as it is, I was like, okay, I must be like calories and sustenance, so I'm just gonna go for it because I
You're
wasn't,
feeding too.
yeah,
You're just feeding too.
feeding too, and I wasn't feeling the energy to like to make choices or to calm myself down. I was just in too much of a survive mode. But now that I'm back at it, I'm like, okay, like if I'm craving something, what is the deeper meaning? And I have that mental space now to be able to be like, okay, let's figure out like a healthier version of it. And if I have gone too long with eating, my body's like ravenous. It's like, okay, you give this to me now.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want like a bag, this is good. A bad thing is like a bag of chips. Like I just make kale chips and it be ready in 2 minutes. But some people get down the road and there it is. And it's like just because we're in that mindset of like, oh, I need to feed too, we can just eat whatever. But it's different because you're empty and you're still cleansing that stuff out. Like I feel that my body is still on its natural cleansing cycle daily, and something that doesn't agree with me, or that I know I shouldn't be eating, like I'll start to feel it the next couple days and I'll want more of it, and I'm like, okay, prepare myself for that and
Yeah.
have something else and get that. But that's something that we can go over a little bit more. I don't talk too much about about me there, but I
Oh,
do
all
want to
good.
be conscious of your time as well. And I really appreciate for coming on and spending this time with me and to share with with my friends and followers and all. And so you have your books, and you're creating the bundles, and you're going to continue on going. There's going to be more bundles, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's absolutely the intention. It's just once a year, and every single year it's completely different, so there are no repeats. So, if there's stuff in here you guys want to grab, then I really encourage you to check it out in either of our links in our bios or in the descriptions or anywhere like that below. But absolutely, it's a joy to bring the community together and get everyone a fire under everyone to continue to create and put more information and recipes and the things that really light them up and they're passionate about, put it out there, because that's how it connects with other people. And this passion is infectious. It's something that spreads. It's a good infection. It's contagious.
Yes.
But in a good way.
Yes.
Good health is contagious. So, and I just want to say thank you so much to Ali for being a part and putting your first book ever in here. I'm so excited to dive deeper into that and your story when we go live on my channel. And I think you're doing great. And, I think, when you are eating for two, it can get a little trickier, and, getting enough calories in general on a raw food diet can be challenging. So when you're doing it for two, it takes extra self-love and patience and care. And, trying to be consistent, getting enough so we don't get too ravenous, but having that forgiveness for self. If we choose something that's not what we consider optimal, it's
Mhm.
it gets a little bit trickier, right?
Yeah, forgiveness is one of the hardest things to do, and I encourage people to, if you're on the journey, it's not an all or nothing. Like I've been 100% raw for this journey, but I have had years where I completely unplugged and took the switch off for a stove, and I even brought my pots and pans to my mom's house, and I did good. But then, after meeting people and be surrounded them, like you really are some of the people that you hang around.
Yeah.
So that's why getting in contact with people like us, Chris, Lissa, Nate, and Dr. Doug Graham, and everybody's in this like we're so helpful. We're here to support. And I wanted to ask, if somebody did want to be a part of the bundle next year, how could they go about doing that?
Yeah, that's
They
awesome.
just
Yeah,
ask you or Lissa?
yeah, you can just reach out to me at blessings at ultimate raw vegan bundle. And we do have an onboarding process, and there are some requirements. Like if someone's first year vegan, it's probably not going to be a perfect fit, because we want to make sure that people have really dove into this and are ingrained and fully committed to a vegan lifestyle. And but if you have your email, then that's where the ball gets going, and we want to grow this family and continue to grow with the bundle and grow the community.
So get the bundle
Mhm.
and start the masterclass, and by next year you'll be to go to make your own book and possibly make it in as well. So thank you so much for your time, Chris, and let us know we can get a hold of you and your services that you provide if you have any community thing like that.
Awesome. Well, my hub is therawadvantage.com. So that's the main place. All of my socials can pop up from there. Everything is the Raw Advantage. It's like, whether Pinterest, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, I guess X, like all of those ones, it's all on there. I got my online course there and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's me, rawadvantage.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and thank you everybody for joining, and we can't wait to see you on the bundle side.
Yeah, thank you so much,
Yay.
Ellie. See you guys.